Most people never look inside their toilet tank. They clean the bowl, wipe the seat, flush, and move on. The tank stays closed for years. Out of sight feels like out of mind. But what if the worst problem isn't in the bowl at all? What if the real danger is growing silently inside the tank, feeding bacteria into every single flush? This is exactly how black mold starts becoming part of daily life without anyone realizing it. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't smell at first. It doesn't stain the bowl immediately. It just grows quietly, spreading across rubber parts, porcelain walls, and water surfaces inside the tank, waiting. This story begins in the United States, in a small home where an older woman lived alone. She was in her late 60s, careful with her routine and proud of keeping her house clean. Every Saturday morning, she cleaned her bathroom the same way she had for decades. The toilet bowl sparkled. The seat was wiped. The floor was spotless. Yet something felt off. The bathroom air felt heavier than usual, especially after flushing. At first, she blamed humidity. Then she blamed age. She assumed maybe her sense of smell was changing. But week after week, the feeling didn't go away. Sometimes after flushing, there was a faint musty smell that vanished quickly. Not strong enough to panic, just strong enough to make her uncomfortable. One day, while replacing a flapper that had started leaking, she lifted the toilet tank lid. What she saw stopped her completely. Dark patches clung to the sides of the tank. The rubber parts looked slimy. The water surface wasn't clear. It wasn't obvious black at first glance, but it wasn't clean either. This wasn't dirt. This was something alive. Black mold thrives in dark, damp, low disturbance environments. The toilet tank is perfect for it. It stays closed. It stays wet. It rarely gets cleaned. And most importantly, it constantly receives fresh water that feeds mold growth without flushing it away completely. The dangerous part is not just that mold is present. The dangerous part is what happens next. Every time the toilet is flushed, tank water flows directly into the bowl. That water carries mold spores, bacteria, and biofilm straight into the area you clean most often. This is why some toilets smell clean but never feel clean. Many people assume mold only grows on walls or ceilings, but mold doesn't care where it grows. It only cares about moisture, nutrients, and time. Inside a toilet tank, minerals from hard water, rubber breakdown, and organic residue provide everything mold needs. This woman felt a mix of fear and confusion. She wondered how long this had been growing. Months? Years? She cleaned her toilet faithfully. How could something like this exist in her home without her knowing? She did what many people do. She searched for quick solutions. Bleach was the first thing she considered. After all, bleach kills mold, right? But this is where many people make a dangerous mistake. Bleach inside a toilet tank can damage rubber components, create harmful fumes, and sometimes make mold return stronger because it doesn't fully remove the biofilm mold grows on. Mold doesn't just sit on surfaces. It anchors itself with microscopic roots into rubber and porous areas. Killing surface color without removing the structure only delays the problem. The safe way to remove black mold from a toilet tank starts with understanding what you are dealing with. Not all black-looking growth is toxic black mold, but all mold inside a tank is a hygiene issue. Regardless of type, it needs to be removed safely, gently, and thoroughly. The first step she learned was to protect herself. Mold spores become airborne when disturbed. She opened a window, wore gloves, and avoided scrubbing aggressively. This wasn't about speed. It was about control. She turned off the water supply and flushed the toilet to drain most of the tank. Lowering the water level immediately reduced the mold's environment. Mold hates dryness. Even temporary drying weakens it. Next came the most important step, choosing the right cleaning solution. Instead of harsh chemicals, she used white vinegar. Vinegar is acidic, and mold cannot survive long-term exposure to acidic environments. Unlike bleach, vinegar penetrates biofilm and weakens mold at its root. She poured vinegar directly onto the stained areas and rubber components. She didn't scrub immediately. Waiting mattered. This pause allowed the acid to break down mold structure without spreading spores. As minutes passed, she noticed the dark areas loosening. The slime stopped clinging. This was the first sign that the method was working. Gentle wiping followed. Not aggressive scrubbing. Gentle removal. Rubber parts like the flapper and fill valve were cleaned carefully. These parts often host mold because rubber slowly breaks down in water, creating nutrients. Vinegar cleaned them without causing damage. The tank walls were wiped slowly from top to bottom. Dark streaks faded. Water clarity improved. The smell changed. That heavy, musty air disappeared almost immediately. After cleaning, she rinsed the tank by allowing fresh water to refill, then drained it again. This flushed away loosened spores. Repeating this once more ensured nothing remained floating inside. Once the tank was clean, she let it refill fully and observed it for several days. No black spots returned. No smell appeared. After flushing, the bathroom air felt normal again, but she wanted to make sure this never happened again. Removing mold once is not enough if conditions remain the same. Prevention became the next focus. She learned that mold grows faster in tanks with constant moisture and no airflow. Leaving the tank lid off for a short time after cleaning allowed surfaces to dry. This simple step significantly slowed regrowth. She also stopped using blue and colored tank tablets. These products often contain sugars and chemicals that feed mold and bacteria. Removing them reduced nutrient sources inside the tank. Once a month, she added a small amount of vinegar into the overflow tube. This kept rim holes and internal pathways clean, preventing mold from spreading beyond the tank. She also learned to watch for early signs: slight discoloration, a faint musty smell, cloudy tank water. Catching mold early prevents full outbreaks. The emotional impact surprised her. Knowing mold had been inside her toilet tank made her uneasy at first, but removing it safely restored confidence. She felt in control again. She shared her experience with her daughter, who admitted she had never checked her own toilet tank. When her daughter looked, she found early mold growth as well, early enough to clean easily. That single conversation prevented a much larger problem. This is how mold spreads quietly through homes, not because people are careless, but because nobody talks about hidden spaces. The truth is, black mold inside toilet tanks is more common than most people think, especially in humid regions of the United States and homes with hard water. Older homes are especially vulnerable. But the good news is this: mold inside a toilet tank is not permanent. It is not a failure. It is simply a result of moisture and neglect, and both can be controlled safely. In the next part, we will go even deeper. We will explain why bleach often fails, how to tell if mold is coming back, which materials attract mold the fastest, and how to keep your toilet tank clean long-term with minimal effort, especially for older adults living alone. After the tank was cleaned and the smell disappeared, the woman thought the problem was over. For a few days, everything felt normal again, but instead of forgetting about it, she paid closer attention than ever before. She wanted to understand why the mold had appeared in the first place, because understanding is what prevents problems from returning. She started noticing patterns. On days when the bathroom stayed closed and humid, the air felt heavier. On days when windows were opened, the room dried faster. Mold does not grow randomly. It follows moisture, stillness, and neglect. Once she saw this clearly, she realized that mold inside the tank had likely been forming for years, slowly and quietly. One of the most important things she learned was that mold does not need dirt to grow. Clean-looking water can still support mold if minerals and rubber particles are present. Every time rubber parts inside the tank slowly degrade, they release organic material into the water. Mold feeds on that material. This is why tanks with older flappers and seals grow mold faster. She checked the age of her toilet components and realized some parts had never been replaced. They were still working, but they were silently feeding the problem. Replacing a worn flapper suddenly made sense, not for performance, but for cleanliness. Another discovery surprised her even more. She learned that bleach does not solve mold problems inside toilet tanks the way people think it does. Bleach kills surface mold, but it does not penetrate biofilm. Worse, it leaves behind moisture and residue that can encourage regrowth. In some cases, bleach can even damage rubber parts, causing them to break down faster and feed mold growth even more. This explained why so many people say mold comes back stronger after using bleach. It isn't that bleach failed completely. It's that bleach treated the symptom, not the system. Vinegar worked differently. It changed the environment. Mold does not adapt easily to acidic conditions. Over time, repeated mild acid exposure weakens mold's ability to return. This is why small, regular treatments work better than one aggressive cleaning. She also learned that tank tablets, especially blue ones, are one of the biggest hidden contributors to mold. These tablets often contain surfactants, dyes, and binding agents that stick to surfaces and rubber parts. Mold feeds on that residue. The water may look blue and clean, but the tank becomes a breeding ground. Once she removed those tablets permanently, she noticed something else. The tank stayed clearer. The rubber parts stayed cleaner. The smell never returned. Preventing mold became easier than removing it. Once a month, she lifted the tank lid and simply looked inside. No scrubbing, no chemicals, just observation. This simple habit allowed her to catch changes early. She also began leaving the tank lid off for an hour after cleaning days. This allowed airflow and evaporation. Mold hates drying cycles. Even small breaks in moisture slow growth dramatically. Another important step was flushing the toilet fully at least once a day. In homes where toilets are rarely used, water stagnates longer. Stagnant water supports microbial growth. Regular flushing refreshes water and reduces buildup. The woman also adjusted how she cleaned the rest of the bathroom. She stopped spraying harsh cleaners near the tank. Overspray can enter the tank through small openings and mix with water, creating unexpected chemical reactions. Keeping cleaning simple and targeted reduced unintended consequences. Over time, she realized how many people unknowingly create perfect conditions for mold. Closed bathrooms, constant humidity, old rubber parts, chemical buildup, and no one ever tells them to look inside the tank. She spoke with a neighbor who had respiratory issues and often complained about bathroom odors. When they checked her tank together, they found thick black buildup along the waterline. That neighbor had been using bleach tablets for years. Once they cleaned the tank safely and removed the tablets, her bathroom air improved noticeably within days. This reinforced an important truth. Mold inside toilet tanks doesn't just affect cleanliness. It affects indoor air quality. Every flush releases tiny particles into the air. While most are harmless in small amounts, chronic exposure can irritate sensitive individuals, especially older adults. Understanding this gave the woman peace of mind. She was no longer unknowingly exposing herself to something harmful. She had taken control. She also learned how to tell the difference between harmless discoloration and active mold. Mold feels slimy. It smears when wiped. It often has an earthy or musty smell. Mineral stains feel rough and chalky. Knowing the difference prevents unnecessary panic. When she visited her daughter's home, she noticed the same faint smell after flushing. This time, she knew exactly where to look. Together, they cleaned the tank early, before mold became established. The process took minutes instead of hours. This is how knowledge spreads quietly, just like mold once did. But this time, the spread was helpful. One of the biggest myths she abandoned was the idea that mold means a home is dirty. Mold means moisture has been left unmanaged. Even spotless homes can develop mold in hidden places. Shame has no place in cleaning conversations. She felt empowered knowing she could prevent this without expensive products or professional help. Everything she needed was already in her home. As months passed, the tank remained clean. No black patches, no slime, no odor. The toilet flushed cleanly and quietly. The bathroom air stayed fresh. The confidence she gained extended beyond the bathroom. She began looking at her home differently. Instead of reacting to problems, she started preventing them. She realized that most household frustration comes from not being shown the full picture. Once people understand systems, not just surfaces, life becomes easier. This experience also changed how she thought about aging. She didn't need more strength or energy. She needed smarter methods. And smarter methods respect time, health, and peace of mind. Mold inside toilet tanks is not something to fear, but it is something to respect. Ignoring it allows it to grow silently. Addressing it calmly removes it safely. As time went on, the woman stopped thinking about what might be hiding inside her toilet tank. That quiet certainty told her everything she needed to know. The mold was gone, and more importantly, the conditions that allowed it to grow were gone too. The bathroom felt lighter, cleaner, and easier to manage, without constant effort or worry. She realized that taking care of hidden spaces isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Once you know where problems start, they lose their power. The tank no longer felt like a mystery box. It became just another part of the home that needed gentle, occasional attention. This simple routine gave her confidence. No harsh chemicals, no expensive products, no unnecessary scrubbing. Just understanding, patience, and safe steps that worked with the home instead of against it. That peace of mind mattered more than anything else. If you've never looked inside your toilet tank before, now you know why it matters. And if you've been worried about what might be growing there, you also know that it can be handled safely and calmly, without panic. A clean home isn't about perfection. It's about feeling comfortable in your own space. When the hidden parts are clean, the whole home feels different. And sometimes the biggest relief comes not from what you see, but from knowing what's no longer there.